everyone. It is going to be dark. We have a rainy day, and my head hurts too much to turn on the overhead light. But I was reading another story called um, I believe it was called "Oh My Savage Princess." Um, I've noticed that most of these um, romance novels that I tend to read are that take place in the feudal era or fantasy setup like cultivation, stuff like that, where they have an emperor, an empress, and stuff like that. It's always the empress or the empress dowager that seems to always have a problem with the female lead. Um, it came to my attention while I was reading that one that it was following along the typical empress and empress dowager hating the female lead for God knows whatever fucking reason. And I kept thinking that why can't they ever just write one where the empress is actually obsessed with the female lead character? Um, Not because of her family background or whatever. It's just because the way she carries herself and the way she does things that the empress is just like, I adore her. So the emperor and empress absolutely adore her and they want her to marry one of the princes, so whoever she marries gets to ascend the throne. I've only seen one story do this where whoever the female lead marries gets to ascend to the throne. In that story, it was only because the emperor himself got rid of the empress because she didn't like the female lead character. And I was thinking to myself, none of these empresses or concubines or whatever actually take care of their own children. Um, I know they had like this whole nanny system set up, wet nurse set up, to where someone else is always taking care of the child, except during public events that the child can attend. Um, they even do that with some of these setups where it's just where you're just seeing the nobility side of things. Um, so I started thinking about it and I was like, well, what if both the emperor and empress are completely obsessed with a female character and whoever she decides to marry, whether it be a commoner, a noble, or whatever, um, will get to ascend the throne. And because of this setup, everyone is trying to get her attention, trying to fool her, and all this other crap. Um, it would be kind of like the normal cliche setup, you know. Female lead comes back to life after going through hell in her first life, or um, or the female lead kind of as she's getting to know these people the princes or whoever, they start scheming behind her back and finding ways to use her instead of just trying to make her fall for them and stuff like that. It came to my attention that they make all males in these series complete douchebags. And then they have this 360-degree turn in uh, personality when they fall in love. And I absolutely hate that. I understand everyone having a dark side and them opening up to a person. That's normal. But a jackass who uses women and throws them away and then all of a sudden becomes completely obsessed with this one character is unnatural. Um, unless they have a very obsessive personality to begin with. Uh, but with all these different personality types that writers could use, they always tend to stick with jackasses as male leads or sub leads or whatever. Um, there was this, I was thinking of something a while ago. There's a game that always pops up on my phone when I'm playing. What is it? I have so many games on my phone. The Water Connect puzzle or Color Water Sort. Sometimes it even pops up on TikTok. And I have an obsession with TikTok. And because Pokemon Go wants to do an update, it wants me to delete all my other games, including TikTok. And I'm like, yeah, no. So I ended up getting rid of Pokemon Go, which I really did not want to do because I absolutely love playing it. But the Empress in this game has her son, and then she ends up adopting a kid from off the streets. And the adopted kid seems to be, you know, the adopted child is much more charismatic and level headed, while her biological son is a fucking dope. Um, and she has to choose between the two who who she'll pick to ascend the throne or name as her heir or whatever. And all I kept thinking was, why is she making it so difficult? Like in the ad, she's just like, who do I pick? Who do I pick? Who do I pick? And all I keep thinking is, are you stupid? You tried so hard with your biological son, gave him all the love in the world, and he still turned out to be a complete dope. I would go with the adopted son, obviously. And it's not because you don't love your biological son, it's just you've tried everything, and he still turned into a sleaze, turned into a total man whore, while the adopted son carries himself with dignity. So I kept thinking that if there was like this typical cliche novel, girl goes back in time or transmigration or something of the sort, whether she be a commoner or someone of noble status or higher status or whatever, even a princess of another country or whatever, just like whatever the case. Um, that the Empress is completely on her side, no matter what. So the Empress goes behind her son's backs and tries to set her up with someone she thinks would be suitable for her, not for herself and not for her to keep her power, but for the female lead, someone she knows will take care of her. Well, the story popped up in my head about uh, the Empress trying to set the female lead up with her two sons. She is the mother of both the second and third prince. Um, the first prince no one has seen for quite a while. He doesn't make public appearances very much. And the fourth prince, her and the female lead and him tend to run into each other quite a bit. Um, and then there's the fifth and sixth prince who are have this unrequited love for the female lead, but they never act upon it. Um, so in my head, the story goes uh, that she's staying with, in the fourth prince's, that she's staying in, not the fourth princess, sorry, that the emperor granted her a territory of her own, well, a palace of her own close to where him and the empress stay. Um, and she kind of, the emperor shows her more respect than she shows him because of all of her great feats. Um, when the story takes place, she's only 16. She she goes after a noble family and tears them down, just completely dismantles the family and takes the youngest child, who is only 1 years old at the time, that they were poisoning. Uh, this noble family tried to have the female lead, we'll just say destroyed. Um, and well, the female lead, being who she is, completely destroys their family and has the emperor arrest them all, and he's to do whatever he wants with them. And she tells the emperor, I have taken in the youngest child. I believe he was the fourth child of that family, and he's only a year old. Um, and this is on the emperor's birthday that she comes back. Lightning strikes, and she appears out of the lightning in the middle of the banquet hall and greets his majesty. And she's just like, your majesty, happy birthday. And he's like, oh, thank God you're back. And he gets up from his seat and goes to give her a hug. Well, everyone in the banquet hall is completely surprised except for the empress, who absolutely adores her. So, of course, this has all the prince's attentions and all the nobles' attention. And in her arms, she is carrying the 1 year old. And the emperor hugs her and then looks down and sees the child. And he's like, did you get married? And she's like, no. She's like, this child isn't mine, but I would like you to grant me permission to raise him. And the emperor says, oh, of course. And then asks to meet her after the banquet's over to talk about everything that had happened. Um, and she presents him a gift for his birthday, which is an elder dragon egg. Well, an elder dragon heart. And it's in a sphere and it keeps it alive. And the elder dragon heart can help them cultivate to another level, but it is extremely hard to get. Um, when she goes to meet the emperor after the banquet, she ends up telling him that she had two originally, but one of them had connected, had basically infused with the child when it came into contact with him. Well, when it felt his presence and his energy, it automatically went to him and started fusing together and helping him. So she could only give the emperor one. And luckily, the one that was left for the emperor happened to be the perfect setup for him, for his type of cultivation. And she says, no matter what, even if the emperor disapproves, she will keep the child as her own, and she will raise him as her own. And she doesn't care what kind of rumors will pop up and whatnot. So the emperor agrees to let her have him and ends up giving her her own separate palace so that she may raise the child and get to know the princes and other people of the palace to see who she may want to marry. Well, the empress's two sons start plotting to defile the female lead, and the empress gets completely pissed off at this, um, because she thought she had raised her sons better. She didn't expect them to turn out as such idiots. And the female lead goes to her after the third prince not only tries to defile her, but beats her. And goes to the empress and says, if you had actually had a hand in raising your child, this shit wouldn't have happened in the first place. She was like, neither of your sons are qualified to even be close to the throne. And the empress agrees and goes to the emperor and has her two kids arrested. The empress then goes and asks the female lead for another chance to find someone who she thinks may suit her. The female lead gives her another chance, of course, because the empress doesn't hate her, um, and has been taking very good care of her. So, of course, she's going to give the empress another chance. So the empress starts searching around and meets nobles and stuff like that and makes like this survey type list of basically of what she thinks would fit perfectly with who she likes to call her daughter. Um, Now, after the female lead comes back, she gets her the emperor grants her the title of princess. Um, I'm not entirely sure how all of this works. Now, he doesn't adopt her or anything like that. She's just granted that title and is given a lot of power, mainly because the emperor and empress both adore her. So she could basically get away with murder because of how much they love her. Um, and she also has two dire wolves, which are extremely rare in that country, in the empire, that she just happened to find um, on the battlefield. she had managed to find both of them as pups. A stray arrow from the opposing side had stray arrows had hit both of them and injured them. And when she went to go and bathe while they were waiting for their enemy's next wave, she happens to see the both of them and ends up healing them, and they end up signing a contract with her as long as they can get their revenge. And she was just like, yeah, fine. She's like, we're fighting the people who shot you in the first place, so have at it. Now there's two of them. One is pitch black with golden eyes, and the other one is a darkish gray with red eyes. Midnight is the black one, Shadow is the gray one. And one's male, one's female. Shadow's female, Midnight is male. Um, she is keeping the both of them alive, and they are bigger. They're really, really big. Um, I wouldn't. I would have to say about as tall as a moose. 7 feet, 7'2", maybe. Um, and they can dire wolves have spiritual intelligence, and they can shrink their size um, at will once they get past a certain age. Uh, I set it to once they get past 2 years of age, and then they can shift their size at will. And then once they reach 10 years old, they have the opportunity to achieve a human form. Um, these two are only 3 years old. So they can already manipulate their size. But anyway, um, the fourth prince happens to be meeting with the emperor when she goes to meet with the emperor. And the emperor immediately stands up when she walks in the door, pulls up a chair next to him, and helps her, escorts her to sit down right next to him. Even at the banquet hall, he sat her right next to him, giving her basically all the power in the world to do whatever she wants, showing the nobles and knights and guards and soldiers and whatever that this is who he adores. This is who has all the power. She said you do something bad, you're going to get fucked. Um so whew, sorry, I've been exhaustingly thirsty for the past few days. It's like so thirsty that I actually get tired of drinking, but I'm still thirsty. Um, I've tried water, Kool-Aid, Powerade, Gatorade, anything to just get rid of this thirst, and it's not fucking working. I've even tried chocolate milk, tomato soup, and I'm just so thirsty. Sprite helped for a while, but it's not doing anything anymore. And now I'm just irritated because of how thirsty I am. Like, it seems like no matter what I do, my mouth is dry, and it's driving me completely insane. So you'll have to excuse me when I take sips of my drink, like every now and then. Uh, so anyway, she's carrying this boy around, keeping him warm, and uh, she won't put him down for anything, not while he's fusing with the Elder Dragon Heart. And the Emperor asks her why, and she has to explain that because of how much power the Elder Dragon Heart has, it's causing his internal energy to destabilize, which could kill him. So she's keeping him stabilized by keeping him close to her so she can take in all the excess chaos energy, um well, straight energy. And she tends to do that without actually trying. It's just her cultivation ability allows her to take in stray energy from everyone else. So if someone's going to power up and they've got all this energy flying off of them, her if she happens to be around, all that energy will go flying towards her and they lose their power. Um, she doesn't understand that that's how this works. She just thinks um, she just thinks she has a natural gift for calming people down and stuff. She doesn't realize that she's actually absorbing their power. Uh, so she's not like this whole badass, I'm going to go kick everyone else's ass type person. She's more, I'm not going to say gullible because she's extremely smart, but she kind of has this really dense side to her. So things like romance and understanding people's feelings or face or reading their faces and stuff like that tend to kind of fly through her unless she's actually paying really close attention. Um, like as the story progresses, you see her interacting with the Emperor and the Empress when no one else will because they look pissed. And she's just like, what are you so afraid of? They're not pissed. And she'll go up and talk to them, and they go about a normal conversation. Everyone's just like, they looked pissed. And she's like, they were just bored. They're bored or they're stressed out. They're not angry. Um, but still, when it comes to romance, she is extremely dense. Um, so she's holding on to this boy and talking to the Emperor about just like official affairs with the fourth prince, who happens to be there for other official affairs. Um, she asked the emperor if he had merged with his elder dragon heart yet, and he said yes, he was able to do that all last night, so he feels perfectly fine now. And then he looks at the boy and asks what the boy's deal is and why she hasn't let him lay down to rest. And she mentions that she had two dragon elder hearts. And of course, the emperor and the fourth prince are just like, what? And she's like, well, yeah, I happened to come across two of them, and one infused with the boy, which is why I'm holding him to keep him stabilized, and the other just seemed perfect for you to cultivate with. So, yeah. Um, and then they go in to ask her how she came about these, and she goes into a very, very long story of how she not only met the dire wolves, but talks about the battlefield and a situation that arose that nearly killed her, um, and that the elder dragon hearts was not something that she had went to destroy a dragon for, but that they gave her. Um, they were reaching the end of their lifespan and wanted to grant her with a gift for helping to protect their children. Um, or their nest, their treasure, something like that. I can't remember what I said it as. Um, so they granted her their hearts. Um, elder dragons can live without their hearts for 3 years. Um, for dragons, that is not a very long time, and it kind of goes by in a flash for them because of how long they live. So they have the ability to take their own hearts out and put them in this sphere that holds all of its energy, all the dragon's cultivation and uh, skills and stuff like that in it, and its knowledge. You can take things out separately. You can either inherit the knowledge or the energy. Um, for someone of the emperor's standing, that energy inside the sphere was enough to bump him up 3 levels. And he became very, very powerful, and so powerful that he could now hide his level. So he hides his level to, keep everyone from like, oh, how did you do that? And blah, blah, blah. And then going to seek to destroy the world trying to get an Elder Dragon heart. So now he can hide that he's leveled up from everyone. Um, but he really doesn't have to worry about it because him and her and the princess are so powerful that no one can actually tell what their level is. In fact, when people observe them, they think that they have no power whatsoever. Uh, there were a lot of people that could not understand how the emperor became emperor because he seemed like he didn't have any cultivation whatsoever. And she was called trash for the longest time by her family. But because the emperor's level was higher than hers, he knew that she had cultivation, and he was just like, I like her. And so he takes her in and starts taking care of her and gives her everything she needs to live. And when war breaks out, she offers to go herself. Um, she ends up. Sorry, another thing just popped into my head. I hate it when it does this. uh, okay. Chio's School Road. I have an obsession with it. And it's just hilarious the misunderstandings that comes out of that series. For some reason, Buddy Bloody Butterfly popped into my head as I was saying that. I was like, anyway, as I was saying, uh, once the once the boy starts stabilizing, she tends to start journeying out more often to go and find certain ingredients, um, to take to get the poison out of his body. because now the elder dragon's heart is now keeping him alive and keeping him stabilized, and it's doing all it can to protect him right now. She's already taken the knowledge out of both dragon elder hearts and is using that knowledge to find the ingredients that she needs to cure the little boy. Well, on this journey, she happens to meet the first prince. Uh, he he knows who she is, but she doesn't know who he is. Mainly because no one has ever seen the first prince, and when people talk about him, they don't really give him a description. They just basically say you'll know him when you see him. The dangerous energy he gives off, you'll know him when you see him, type deal. And so on her little trip, she happens to run into him on a mountain, um, in the middle of the woods. He's injured, um, and the injury is causing his energy to kind of go erratic. And she feels this energy and goes towards it. And when she sees him, she grabs his hands, and instantly his energy starts dying down and he starts feeling better. And she uses some of the herbs that she had picked to heal his wound. Um, they do have healing spells, but she sucks at them, so she never uses them. She's more into alchemy than anything. She likes making little pills or elixirs. Um, and most of the recipes that she has are from the Elder Dragon heart, are from the Elder Dragon's knowledge. So they're ancient, which means no one else has these recipes. Um, it's kind of it's kind of like Tales of Demons and Gods. If you haven't read that manga yet, I suggest that you do. It is very well written. It is beautiful. Um, it is just an amazing story. It was worth reading 200 something chapters, and it's not finished yet. It's just, it keeps you in the story. Now, every now and then they get this kind of boring run to it, but it's not that boring. It's just the main male lead does a lot of flashbacks to his previous life to give you an explanation as to why this item or person or thing is so important to him. Uh, so it's exciting and it's kind of boring all at the same time, but the story is just beautiful. Um, they do make a couple of mistakes in it every now and then, like most long running mangas do. Uh, they'll say one thing and then do another, or they'll have this one skill and then say they don't have this one skill, that they want this one skill. It, you kind of get it as to what they're trying to say, but it does get kind of annoying every now and then. But it's a very beautiful story. The skills are kind of based off of that. The skill levels, the cultivation levels are kind of based off of that. Um, except except they can't fuse with a spirit animal or with a demon spirit and do like this half beast form or whatever. instead of doing that, they take the knowledge and cultivation from that to boost their own cultivation. Um, and instead of, they have all these different levels above legendary or whatever rank and all that. It's it's a really well made story, and it's definitely worth the read. Back to my story though. Um, so she meets the first prince. She stabilizes him and heals his injuries, and he ends up staying with her to travel with her. Uh, ends up traveling with her, um, mainly because she thinks that she needs to keep him safe because of how heavily injured he was and because of his energy levels. Um, and he's more interested in the type of personality she has because she was cursing up a fucking storm when she grabbed his hands and was taking his energy, uh, was taking all the chaotic energy from around him. And because of the way the energy rushes in at her, it feels like needles are stinging at her skin. And so she sits there, fuck, damn. And, and he's sitting there just like completely amused at her potty mouth. Um, Not only that, he found it very entertaining that as graceful and elegant that she was, her mouth did not reflect any nobility at all. So he absolutely adored her. Um, but of course, he's like, I'm a prince. She's probably a commoner, whatever. Uh, like at first, he's just kind of confused, and then he hears her name. I gave her the name Lulu, Shayu Lulu. Uh, Her last name Shayu, first name Lulu, and everyone who knows her calls her Lulu. And except for the little boy ends up calling her Mama when he wakes up. So at first he's not kind of thinking straight, and he doesn't recognize her because he's never actually met her before. But when he hears her name, he's like, "Oh, this is her." And he was like, "I know who she is." Uh, and I've heard a lot of things about her and stuff like that. And he was like, "But I did not know she had a mouth." um, she doesn't remember meeting him because of an accident she had went through. Uh, they only had one meeting when they were little, and or Tandy looks like Tandy. Um, and so their interaction was very little, but the first prince was the first to realize that she was being beaten by her biological parents. Um, and he told the emperor, and the emperor ended up taking her in and taking that family out of power because of what they had done to their daughter. Uh, they also schemed to kill the empress to place their second daughter on the Empress's throne. Normal fucking schemes and just shit. So, so first Prince realizes who she is and is just like, I can't believe she survived that. She seems to be doing well. She grew up very beautiful, blah, blah, blah. Um, Meanwhile, she's cursing up a storm trying to get through the fucking mountain, trying to find these fucking herbs that she can't find anywhere because they're nearly fucking extinct. And yes, this is her talking to herself. She's just like, I can't believe I'm traveling through a fucking mountain trying to find these fucking herbs that are nearly fucking extinct with a fucking pretty boy who can't do anything. And when they get back to the city, she ends up telling him that she has to go about her own way and that he should go do his own thing. He'll be safe in the city. Um, and he ends up again sending a message to the emperor that she's heading back to the palace and that the emperor would see her soon and that he is going back to doing what he was doing. That he'll be heading back to uh, I haven't figured out the name for this country yet. But the first prince of this country, of the empire, happens to be the emperor of essentially what they like to call the underworld. Um, it's not actually hell or anything like that, but it's just so that territory just happens to be very dangerous and dark and what is that then? It's not that. Where are you coming from? I don't understand. It's not there and it's not there. Oh, okay. Sorry. There's another. I see the blinking light from my laptop where my headphones is on my cup, and I couldn't figure out where the other light was coming from. I thought it was maybe the camera up there or the power button. It's where my laptop is plugged into the power source. I'm a fucking moron. I don't, I don't know why that caught my attention all of a sudden, but it did, and it distracted me. Damn it. I, I get distracted like that sometimes. Oh no. Oh no, I lost it. Shit. Um, anyway, so he happens to be the emperor of what they call the underworld. This territory doesn't exactly have a name to it yet, but dark cultivators, auction houses, merchants, and stuff like that. A lot of goods comes from this continent, and because the first prince is the emperor of it and his father is the emperor of a lighter continent, they do trades quite often to bring in a lot of goods. So the first prince happens to not be able to show his face there because if he shows his face as the first prince of this continent, then as the emperor of the dark continent, he would get overthrown in a split second because you can't be both. So he kind of gave up on inheriting the throne, um, not realizing that they could bring the two into one. Uh, and it's because of her that they're able to bring both of these two things together. Um, she, if she marries the first prince, they could work things out because the two countries happen to be side by side. Um, and because of the excess energy that is corrupting that the dark continent, if she ever goes there, she could absorb all that negative energy and purify it. And there wouldn't be any problems. They would still have all their resources and everything. It just it wouldn't make people sick to go there. Um, right now, they call it basically the dead zone because anytime anyone goes there, they start feeling really weak and really sick. And when they come back, they tend to get really angry at all the people around them. And it's not because they're horrible people, it's just because of the negative energy of the dark continent that tends to eat away at at their brains and kind of makes them really self-conscious and thinking that everyone hates them and that everyone's being fake, and just really gives them a really negative outlook on things and just kind of makes them angry. um, the middle of my story is her and the first prince actually getting married. um, Now, at first, everyone thinks that she's going to get with the fourth prince because her and the fourth prince have this really kind of back and forth relationship. They don't feel that way about each other. The fourth prince at first thinks that he loves her, and then he starts realizing that what he has for her is not love, um, but it's more of a brotherly protective type feeling. Um, he doesn't want to touch her and stuff like that. He wants to protect her from people he thinks are bad influences. And the more he starts realizing that, the more she starts realizing her feelings for the first prince. Um, Now, of course, at first, her and the first prince have this. He knows he likes her and he flirts with her constantly, but because of how dense she is, he could throw her a fastball and she would still miss it. It just goes right over her fucking head. um, it so they have like this really comical relationship at first, and again, the more the fourth prince realizes that he doesn't love her, the more she realizes that her feelings towards the first prince are more than just friendship or sisterly love and stuff like that. So it tends to their relationship starts taking a turn when when one of the princes from another empire tries to kidnap her. Uh, she goes to the Dark Continent for a very brief period of time, basically just traveling through, trying to find um, another herb for the poison that is in Little Boy. Um, and ends up running into a prince there who just immediately wants to own her. Um, a demon prince that just is completely obsessed over her. Um, has an obsession with all beautiful things and wants to own everything beautiful. The one thing he doesn't have yet is a truly beautiful heart. He meets her and immediately wants her. Um, so he wants to own her, and she ends up leaving the Dark Continent before he can ever get the chance to find out who she is. So he's going through all this trouble trying to figure out. Um, ends up having to go to the Empire, wanting to form a treaty with the Empire so that their kingdom doesn't get destroyed. Um, well, so that their empire doesn't get destroyed because of their lack of cultivation, because of how close they are to the Dark Continent. So when he goes there, he ends up seeing her again and he hears her name. And then when he goes to meet the Emperor, he finds out who she is and he starts delaying the treaty talks because he wants to get his hands on her. Uh, the first prince realizes what's going on and tries to keep her very close to him. And her instincts letting her basically told her that what he's trying to do is protect her. She doesn't know who she's being protected from, but she knows that the first prince is trying to protect her, as well as the fourth. Um, and the emperor are trying to protect her, and she doesn't really understand they're who they're intimidating to protect her from, but she knows that they're protecting her. Um, so she ends up healing the little boy. Um, everything's peaceful for a little while. The first prince doesn't know that she has the little boy that she is raising, so he misunderstands when the little boy comes running up to her during her meeting with the emperor and the first prince. Um, there's these underground tunnels where the emperor and the first prince can meet, and the emperor ends up bringing her, and she ends up bringing the little boy. Well, the little boy goes running off into a separate room to go and play while he's waiting for her. And so the first prince and the emperor and her are talking, and then the little boy comes running in, and he's like, "Mama!" And she turns around and picks up the little boy, and she's like, "Well, what's wrong?" Uh, and the first prince gets really confused, and she's married, and the emperor's like, "No, she's not married." And he kind of starts overthinking things and is not clearly hearing anything and kind of gets pissed off. So he kind of storms out. Um, and at the Dark Continent, he ends up hearing that from one of the apothecaries that he goes to, that uh, this really beautiful girl who shines brighter than the sun is looking for medicines for this boy that she has adopted. Um, and that it seems like he's really sick. And she said it's taken her a full year to, well, a year and a half to be able to finally cure him of the poison that he was given as a child. And the first prince kind of starts putting together the pieces, and he gets the final piece of the puzzle from his assistant, who is still working at the Empire, who actually happened to be placed next to her. Um, as the full situation. And when him and the first prince meet, he lets the first prince know that no, it is not her biological child. She adopted him because his original family was poisoning him as a baby from infancy. Um, but because of his strong will to live, he didn't die so easy. And then thanks to her and the Elder Dragonheart, he was able to survive. And the only thing she had left to do was to cure the poison. Um, and that she is raising the child as her own. Uh, so the misunderstanding gets cleared up, and the first prince ends up going back to that underground meeting place to meet with the emperor again, where she and the little boy come. And the little boy really likes the first prince. Like, he's like, the little boy thinks that he looks exactly like the first prince, which, in all fairness, they do actually look alike. That anyone would think that he actually had a son because of how alike they look. Um, Mainly because the family that she took the boy from was the first prince's mother's branch family. Um, as corrupted as they were, the first empress wasn't a bad person. She just happened to come from a very bad family. Well, the little boy happens to be a branch family from the first prince's mother's side. So, from the first empress's side, um, late empress. And so it was no wonder that they would kind of look alike. So people of the empire had started to assume that she had already had, that she was already married to the first prince, because uh, the emperor's son looks exactly like her. Um, the beautiful black hair, the ruby red eyes, well, the beautiful golden blonde hair and the ruby red eyes. Um, he has his mother's beautiful looks. That was the only thing that anyone ever knew about the first prince, was that he looked a lot like the first empress. Um, Although no one has ever actually seen him. Uh, but the little boy looked a lot like the first empress as well. Um, his hair wasn't as sparkly golden as the first prince's. It kind of had this rose gold look to it. Um, and her hair, what color did I make her hair? I believe I had her hair red. So it was kind of a mix in between both of their hair. Um, she had beautiful flaming red hair. Um, and it's straight. I'm not doing that crappy curly hair. Um, I would not be able to draw it properly if I did it. But anyway, that is as far as I've gotten in the story. I do know that her and the first prince actually end up getting married. Um, she has conditions of her own on who she's going to marry, and the only one that actually seemed to like her was the first prince. Uh, he didn't want to possess her or anything like that, but he was really protective and cared about what she thought on certain situations and stuff like that. He was more considerate than any other person in the continent except one. which that one person causes them a lot of issues after they get married. And it's not like that one person is doing it on purpose. It's just it causes a lot of misunderstandings between her and the first prince. Um, the other character happens to be a soldier who is sent to her to protect her by the emperor. Um, at the Dark Continent after she has purified the air around it so that people can travel back and forth. Uh, and because the first prince happens to be extremely busy during this time period and doesn't get to spend much time with her, every time he comes home and sees her and the boy playing with this soldier, the little boy playing with the soldier and she's just talking to him, he tends to think that they look like a happy family and he kind of feels like he's intruding. He doesn't understand that she has no feelings for this guy, even though this guy has feelings for her. um, he he also doesn't understand how dense she is because he happens to be the same way. So he kind of needs his aide to smack him upside the head and tell him that he's being a fucking idiot. Um, but that's about as far as I've gotten. Um, I do know eventually they have a child of their own too. I just haven't gotten that far yet. Um, anyway, I hope you guys have a beautiful morning, evening, afternoon, night, whatever time of day it is for you. Um, I am going to have to get off of here now because my mother will be home soon, and I got to figure out what to have for dinner that won't upset my stomach. Because although I'm feeling better, I'm not up to 100% yet. Not only that, I've got to take a shower because tomorrow I have to go and get a freaking Florida ID for some stupid reason. Um, I'm going to be busy the next 2 days. I will try to get on here again. Um, Maybe later this week if I'm feeling any better. Just if this rain lets up, I'll feel a lot better. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and go. So I'll see you guys later, and thank you for tuning in on my little story time. Bye.